The looks Tamara Demko got from the Adelsons that night were so frightening, she said on our show the other night, that she went and bought a gun immediately, went to church, and left Tallahassee in the ensuing days. She was living there. She truly believed that they could kill again. Meanwhile, after the 2013 relocation hearing, Dr. Stacy Walton Duggar told us on the show last night that her ex-husband, who was Dan Markel's divorce attorney, told her flat out that the Adelsons would have Dan Markel killed.
Welcome to the global phenomenon, Surviving the Survivor. Here's your host, Emmy award-winning journalist, Joel Waldman.
What's up, STS Nation? Welcome to Surviving the Survivor. This is the show that promises to bring you the very best guests in all of true crime. Tonight, the question isn't whether at least two of the Adelsons are guilty. The broader question is whether they're even more sinister than anyone had ever imagined. We're going to revisit these two chilling revelations I just read to you. Of course, Tamara Demko coming on the show 2 nights ago and dropping some bombshells about the evening that Dan actually passed away, July 19th, 2014. And then just last night, Dr. Stacy Walton Duggar, her ex-husband, again, was Dan Markel's divorce attorney. And she, too, dropping a bit of a bomb on our show just yesterday, saying her own ex-husband had told her that the Adelsons were going to kill Dan Markel. This was a year before the actual murder. Without further ado, the best guests in all of true crime. And today, the best panel of all the best guest panels, starting off with famed Tallahassee criminal defense attorney, the letter R and O-U-R, Timothy Jansen, also a former federal prosecutor. You've got the high priestess of STS, the professor, Jo Potuto, professor emerita, University of Nebraska School of Law. And this guy is no slouch. He is the brain of, I don't know, the panel here. John Singer of Singer and Deutsch, an attorney, not just an attorney, an attorney's attorney, and also friend of the show, friend of ours, and he's been following this case literally from day one. So welcome to one and all. John Singer, you're the one who has not really weighed in yet, and I haven't. Tim and Joe were with us during the sentencing hearing. I know you're a busy guy, but I was just wondering your sort of eagle's eye view of this sentencing hearing. I've gotten emails and texts from both criminal defense attorneys, prosecutors, and people who are not in the legal world who have said to me this is one of the most bizarre sentencing hearings that they have ever witnessed. Your opinion, having, digested it now.
So I couldn't listen to it on Monday, but I listened to it today, and it was truly Kafkaesque. I mean, my mouth was agape, and I was at certain points laughing out loud. I was angry at other points. I was screaming in my own mind, to quote Harvey. My biggest takeaway, and I've got a lot of them, but the biggest one is Harvey. We had not heard him speak in the past, aside from the Matsuri video or audio that was right after the bump in April of 2016. And it was certainly hard to hear his side of the conversation with Charlie, but we finally got to hear him in all his glory on Monday. And the picture that was painted was an obsequious, subservient, passive husband. Even Rob Adelson testified that Harvey was the passive one and Donna was the aggressive one. But man, oh man, he showed his true colors to come after the Markels and call them liars. And I listened and I remember their impact statements. They never said that they were precluded from seeing the kids. They said they were precluded for 6 years. And then since then, it's been highly choreographed and very manufactured and very truncated. He called them liars. When you think they can't go low, they go even lower. The chutzpah, the gall. I mean, it was mind-blowing. What a despicable human being he is. And your mom was right. Carm had it from the get-go. She called it. The rest of us thought he wasn't involved. He was involved.
Listen, Carm's vocabulary, by the way, it challenges at least John Singer's. Believe it or not, Carm with that heavy accent has a wildly large vocabulary, as does Joe Potuto. Someone yelled at me saying, no, it's Joe Potuto that's actually the brain on this show. But what Carm really has is human and gut instinct. And she said, I don't want to belabor it, but from day one, she has said that Harvey is probably at the root of this, which is interesting to me. This is a low blow from Canine Catherine, but I've got to put this comment up because it made me laugh right away. The dog haters on the bottom. They're not really dog haters. They're just they're dog agnostic. Let's just say that they're dog agnostic. Rachel D, though, realizing the full impact of this panel, calling it the dream team. So Joe Potuto, we'll go in reverse order here. You've had some time to digest it, and I'm going to play these clips, by the way, from Tamara Demko and Dr. Stacy Duggar as well. Both had interesting things to say. Dr. Smith said, no Carm. Look at this. No Carm. I'm out. Wow. I'll let her know that. But Joe Potuto, Harvey has been portrayed as sort of this meek, quiet, guy that's just kind of a wallflower. He's obviously not. I said it when I was in Tallahassee, kind of has a chilling stare. Do you think prosecutors took note of this at this sentencing hearing? And could his future change as a result of what he or how he displayed his anger during the sentencing hearing?
Well, I'm sure they took note of it, but I think they had a better picture of it than maybe the public generally. I never thought he was a milquetoast. I mean, if you looked at the little crumbs out there running around after the money, Charlie's money, with that Vietnam purchase and pushing. The other real estate deals that we had some inkling of what was going on, showing up uninvited to a wedding and bringing his 3 kids along. I mean, there were all kinds of little crumbs showing that he wasn't the sort of the meek, mild person. And I never thought he wasn't involved in some way, because I cannot imagine with chatty Donna and them living together. They're in the same bed. They were doing everything together. He's with her when she drops off the money the night of the shooting. I never thought he didn't know what was going on, and he didn't strike me as somebody who would let it go ahead if he didn't have his finger on the pulse in terms of what happened. And I think the prosecution probably had that same picture of him all along. Whether it changes what they do is a different question, because we're back to whether there's admissible evidence that they have that they can use against him. And the fact that he talked at the hearing doesn't change whatever the body of evidence is.
Yeah, well, that's a great point. John Singer, I don't know if this is good or bad, considering the screen name. I can spell crazy a mile away, but I am watching because of John Singer, all caps, the most handsome and brilliant mind on the show. I think the 3 others of us should all be offended at that. Look at Tim Jansen glaring at that camera lens right now, and Canada repping in the house today. Tim Jansen, I mean, to the professor's point, you've got to have the evidence, but did this get the ears of Georgia, Sarah Catherine Dugan, Jack Campbell and company at least perked up? I mean, I don't know what they obviously know a lot more than at least I know, and I don't know about you guys, but again, Harvey's kind of just slipped into the background in this whole thing, and he's kind of written off as this, old guy in his 80s, which, by the way, is not that old in today's world. He seems to be in very good shape, who is just going to slip by because of his age and because of his kind of meek disposition, but he doesn't seem to be that way.
Well, they knew from a long time in this investigation, probably before they charged people, of his involvement. They had the recordings. I don't know if they knew about the payoff, but they knew that Katie was getting paid from the firm. And they knew this doctor loved money so much, he gave cash discounts. So he was trying to funnel every dollar and save money, And he was there. He would know the money was going out to Katie. He would have seen those checks. His wife, and he said they've been married all this time. We don't do anything without each other knowing. I guarantee you he knew. Now, whether he took a backstage because he didn't want to know so he could, run the business. I think that's more his speed. But I think you're right. I think if they had more evidence, they probably would have lumped him in the conspiracy. But remember, Jack Campbell, when Donna was arrested at the airport, Jack Campbell came out and said, we don't have enough evidence to charge Harvey at this time. He came out and said that. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if they've gathered anything more since that time, but I certainly see they recognize Harvey's not a milquetoast. He showed his true colors. When attacking the Markels, who I think was so classy in their victim impact statements, I probably would have been much worse, but to attack them like he did kind of shows you why we got where we are now. You know, and I've talked to Tamara, and she told me one night about the situation of the murder and their relationship, and it's eerie and scary. Harvey contact and behavior to her after the murder.
Yeah. John Singer, before I get to Tamara Demko's sound from our show from 2 days ago, Dragon Nana here, the airport video, Donna acted like Harvey was so feeble. He is not. He's definitely not feeble. And to be honest, either is Donna. Donna, I think, is much stronger than people think. But John Singer, they opened up this other investigation, I guess, right before the new year. And I think, according to at least the information that was elicited from the defense, oddly enough, shows that the government was investigating potentially Harvey and this zelling of inmates and stuff. So right there, there could be something, not necessarily a first-degree murder indictment. But what about that?
Yeah, I mean, there was some allusion at some point to the fact that Harvey was having communications with some of the jailhouse informants and may have been trying to facilitate some sort of suborning of perjury. But I don't think that was particularly well developed vis-a-vis Harvey at Donna's trial. But again, I think that Harvey, for all we knew, he did seem to be feeble. We heard the jailhouse calls. Donna did most of the speaking. When Charlie was convicted, Harvey was sort of whimpering and saying to him, "We love you, we love you." Donna was also crying, but she was doing 99% of the speaking. And it just seemed, at least from my standpoint, I had painted in my own mind a very different picture of Harvey. And boy, oh boy, did he blow that out of the water at the sentencing hearing. Again, to take shots at the Markels, who gave these incredibly poignant victim impact statements, and to call them liars when by the way, they didn't lie at all. They told the truth about their access or lack thereof to the children. For him to go after them in such a venal way, it really gives you a window into his character. And as Tim said, there's no question that he had knowledge, but also following up on what Joe said, they have to have the evidence. And what evidence they have of Harvey, at least none that we know of right now. So we'll see. We'll see how it progresses.
Yeah. And I tell you, I've talked to the Markels many times, publicly and privately, and they have never said either way that they have not seen their grandchildren. It is just very, very rare and under very difficult circumstances, and always made to be difficult. And typically it'll happen right before trial. So the Adelsons can then say, no, we let we give them access, which is, very manipulative as well. But Hannibal Black here for the professor, for Wendy to identify and coordinate the framing of a fall guy, we're talking about Jeff Lacasse, before the crime occurred, should be enough to find her guilty of conspiracy. That fall guy is an excellent witness. Again, Jeff Lacasse. Just to add on to this, Joe Potuto, I interviewed 3 different jurors who, just knowing what they found out in Donna's trial, the evidence there, believe that there's enough to indict Wendy and possibly even convict her as is, let alone getting any more evidence. So what about this point about Jeff Lacasse and him being the fall guy? Oh, I think you're muted, Joe. I'm sorry. There you go.
I don't think I did that.
Oh.
But, for conspiracy, all you need to prove is that the person agreed. You don't have to show that she did anything, so long as so long as there's an agreement. You need the other thing to show that she was agreeing. I think the stuff with Jeff, particularly what we learned last time, that in the first trip to Tallahassee to do the murder, that they had gotten a car that looked just like Jeff's Prius, I guess it was, and they didn't use it because they ended up having an accident and the car had to be returned. It's, so it seems to me that there's that. There's the so-called coincidence of both times he's out of town is when when the murder is seems to be planned. So yeah, I think I've said over and over again with regard to Wendy that I thought there was enough evidence, but a jury would have to draw all the inferences from the evidence in the direction towards guilt. I think if she got on the stand, they'd have no trouble doing it. But I think if she's prosecuted, the chances that she'll get on the stand and testify are -0. But she'd be the best evidence against her, I think.
Yeah, there's some interesting information, not related to an indictment, but related to Wendy that I'm trying to get to the bottom of before I reveal it. So keep an eye on Twitter, X at podcast STS, Instagram at Surviving the Survivor. If I can nail it down, I'll probably put it up there tonight or tomorrow. Just a very interesting tidbit about what she's up to right now. Tim Jansen, I mean, you're I was going to say born and bred in Tallahassee, but that is definitely not the case.
That's not true.
I know, but you've been in Tallahassee a long time. Still a Gators fan, obviously. However, you've been part of the legal community there. Now that you've had a little time to digest it, I mean, how do you compare this sentencing hearing to others that you've witnessed over the years?
Well, I've never seen a sentencing hearing done that way. I've never seen where the lawyers don't at least know what the character witnesses are going to say, somewhat limit what they're going to say, and make sure it's actually character. I wouldn't let the defendant and defendant's wife attack the judge for who I'm trying to get leniency on the second and third count, because I believe we might get a chance to get overturned count 1. I mean, it was just, it's just stupid. But we all know their audience was not the judge. The audience was to those grandkids and their friends. That's who it was for. Because if it was for that judge, then that's severe malpractice to let them do what they did. And the judge, he was perfect. He let him go. It's like when they're digging a grave, your enemy, let him keep digging, and he just perfectly, he ruled based on the evidence, and he did mention that he could no remorse. And I don't know how they didn't know that was a Supreme Court case. And that was a Supreme Court case that Judge Wheeler was involved with. So Judge Everett knew that case, that you can use that in determining if they're not showing any kind of remorse at all in the sentencing when it's discretionary.
All great points there for sure. John Singer, to you, Tim commented on this, and I think Professor Potuto commented on it as well. But I mean, both Harvey and Donna, they just literally went off the rails to the point where Judge Stephen Everett had to intervene. And I think Tim and Joe were questioning, well, what were these lawyers thinking? And then someone sent me an email saying, look, they rewatched it multiple times and said that they believe it was absolutely calculated, like that Zellman could not have had the case law for not being sworn in as handy as he had it for at least that part of Donna's sentencing statement. But I mean, what was going on, you think, behind the scenes with these attorneys? Did they just let them kind of run wild with these statements? I mean, isn't the job of an attorney to make sure your client is delivering something to the court that is going to be representable and acceptable by the standards of the court?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the job of the attorney, but at the end of the day, the client is in charge. And this wasn't a Q&A with the attorney and with the witnesses. These were statements read by the witnesses. And I agree with Tim and Joe. The audience was not the judge. It was a fait accompli that the Adelsons were receiving the maximum on counts 2 and 3. There was not going to be a downward reduction or any downward adjustment. They were speaking to Ben and Lincoln. It's clear as day to me. I hadn't heard Tim or Joe say that before, but that was my absolute visceral reaction when I watched it today, which is they weren't speaking to the judge. I mean, Harvey said straight out, this is a biased judge. So you're not pleading for clemency or to try to ameliorate the situation. You know you're not getting clemency. You're speaking to your grandchildren who at some point are going to deign to watch all the coverage on this when they become of age and they become extricated from Wendy. And this is for them. That was all it was for. And I agree with Tim, their friends, whatever friends they have left. I mean, they had a few people speaking on their behalf at the hearing. I mean, they had this Ben Graber. I mean, I don't know if we'll get into that, but I mean, I thought the one thing I thought the judge erred in was letting him go on for as long as he did. He was talking about legislative intent of the statutes. I mean, when we were in law school, you learn what's called legislative intent. So when you're interpreting a statute, you're trying to determine what was behind or what the thought processes were that were underlying the passing of the statute. He started talking about legislative intent. He's a gynecologist. And even if he weren't, it's not relevant to, as the judge said, allocution. He should have been cut off. That was a clown show, letting him go on as long as he could. That was offensive to me, and I'm sure it was offensive to the Markels too.
Yeah, I mean, Professor Potuto, you want to hop on that real quick? I mean, that was obviously before Harvey and Donna went, but should the judge have kind of thrown the hammer down there and just told him to be quiet?
Yeah, he was more off what the hearing was than anybody else, really. I mean, the others were offensive as hell, but they were talking about Donna and the fact that they thought she had been wrongly convicted. He's off talking about a statute, and I think he said he was in the legislature for part of the time, and we all know that the legislature writes that statute, and one legislator cannot say, I know better what it was. And then he said, this needs to be revised by the legislature. That's right. It can't be revised by the judge at a hearing. It says what it says. So I thought he was really off base. I think what happened, though, is he was the first witness up. And I think by the second and certainly the third witness, the judge had a real good handle that none of them were really going to go to character. And if he had been the second or the third, I think the judge would have cut him off much sooner and not let him go and go and go.
Yeah, Tim, did you have a thought on that?
I found Graber not credible at all. He was talking about himself more than anything. He wanted to puff up his own background. He said, I've known these people for all this time, and then he hadn't had any contact for 25 or 30 years. So he didn't really know these people. That's like me saying I knew these guys in college. I don't know what they've done for the last 40 years, but I knew them in college, and they're great people. It's not relevant. He's got nothing.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so it was 2 nights ago, and I have to tell you, I had no idea this was coming. Tamara Demko is a old friend of Dan's, went to Harvard Law School with him, and I asked her to come on the show because I knew that the sentencing was going on. We wanted to get her take, and this is what she said. I've got a couple of clips. This is the first one. Let me get rid of this comment here, and I'm going to play it for you, and then we'll get the take from the best guest panel. Here we go.
19th, the day that Danny passed, I went over to Wendy's house.
Okay.
And I saw Wendy, Donna, and Harvey that morning, that day.
And she said we came straight up here.
Yes.
At that point, and Tamara's got a lot of inside knowledge here. I mean, at that point, and I asked Josh Berman, who is a Harvard Law School friend of Dan's, who was on the show last week. It was pretty obvious that Dan was having problems with Wendy, but did you guys suspect the Adelsons that early on? Was that something that crossed your mind?
It's one of the reasons I went to Wendy's house, to be honest. I kind of wanted to feel out the situation. I wanted it to not be true. But I didn't know who was involved. I just wanted to connect and see, was there something off there? Because I found out about Danny passing through an email. I hadn't seen him since June 4th, the day that they came up to scout. He had taken me out for my birthday to dinner that night. But Yes. So the 19th, I went over to Wendy's house, and I don't want to get too into other things, but Wendy answered the door, and she saw me and she looked at me. And even in my grief-stricken state, I thought this was an odd response, but she said, "I'm so sorry," to me, which I thought was odd coming from an ex-wife to a friend. But I did.
I'm going to hold it right there. Joe Potuto, I mean, that is very, very odd to me. Your ex-husband is killed and you are apologizing for it to one of Dan's best friends. And what do you make of what Tamara has said up to this point here?
Well, I thought that was compelling, and I thought what she said later was more compelling. And I heard her interview that she gave way back at the time of the shooting, where I thought she was remarkably perceptive and had a really good ear for what was happening behind the words. And she was very careful not to say a whole lot. And on your show the other night, it was clear why.
Yeah. Jared, I'm not going to bring the comment up, but Jared Ross, someone said he is the fifth panelist. I guess it would be fourth technically. Tamara is the one who originally posted on Facebook about the shooting on Trescott being Dan. It's how I found out that it was Dan who had been shot. Still so surreal and sad. So that's interesting from Tamara. And she found out from someone that way. So here we go. I'm going to keep playing it.
Interact with Donna and Harvey. Donna said to me, TJ, which was my nickname at the time, "Oh, TJ, I can't believe this happened. We were at dinner. We got this call. We drove straight up all night. We expected to see him." And it's just incredible. She said the right things. And then Harvey came out of the bedroom area where the boys had been. And I was turned away from him. And he said, "Hey, TJ." And I turned around and I looked at him and we locked eyes. And this really strange sensation came over me. And I just felt like kind of scared, honestly. And then he couldn't look at me at that point. His eyes dropped. And at that point, the whole vibe of the just being there didn't feel right. I felt scared. And I thought, if they can kill Danny in broad daylight in his driveway, and they're sensing something from me, I need to get out of here. I mean, I was so concerned. I went and talked to a priest for 3 hours. I bought a gun that day because it was that intimidating.
John Singer, she went to a priest that same day and bought a gun, which you can do in Florida same day. I don't know if that's good or bad, but John Singer, that's kind of chilling. And this is the first time she shared this, I think, with anybody publicly since this happened. And this was the night Dan died on July 19th.
I haven't heard her share this with anybody on any of the podcasts or anything of the like, but I did watch her police interview many, many, many months ago. So I'm going to go a little bit on recollection here. I do recall that on the 19th, which is a Saturday, that was the day that he actually passed, that she went to the house. She told Detective Isom that. And she described exactly how she just described to you what happened when she got to the house. Wendy's comment when she opened the door. And I remember her telling Detective Isom, it was like an hour and a half interview. She was going into the background of Dan and Wendy because she was sort of straddling the fence between Team Dan and Team Wendy, even though she was much tighter with Dan than she was with Wendy because of all the antecedent history from law school. But she said specifically, you should look at Harvey and Charlie. She did not think the mother was involved. She was hoping Wendy wasn't involved, but she had a horrible vibe about Harvey. And I remember her saying that during the interview, and I sort of attributed it when I watched it to just Harvey maybe being awkward. He couldn't lock eyes with her, but she got this weird vibe, and she amplified that in the clip you just played. And it's a very compelling interview. Both she and Jeff Lacasse immediately, and they knew these people as well as anybody, they both knew it was the family. And by the way, law enforcement may have as well. They had to prove it. But the people who were closest to the situation, I even think Jared has stated on the show, and Jared's awesome, that his wife immediately surmise that the Adelsons did it, but both Jeff and Tamara went to the police in the days following and told them straight out, this was a hit and the Adelsons did this.
Yeah, man, it is freaky deaky and very chilling. Tim Jansen, a lot of people have asked, well, why wasn't Tamara called as a witness? Could she be called potentially if there are future trials or trial? Is what she just said, I don't know, would that be allowable in court? Is it prejudicial? Is it hearsay? I mean, it's her telling you the story. What would happen with this in terms of evidence?
Well, what she saw and the demeanor of people, potential defendants, is clearly admissible. It was at the time or near the time of the offense. She knew these people, so she had a relationship with them. When I was with Tamara, we laughed because my nickname in college was TJ too, and we were having a nice conversation. And then she told me this story, and I could see her change. Her whole demeanor changed. It was like she saw a ghost. And then she was explaining about the look that Harvey gave her, and then that he blocked her from all social media right after this encounter. I think she still is afraid today. I'm glad she had the courage to go on the air and share that, because it's been eating her up inside. And she went to a priest, which is great. She went there to try to get some kind of a way to talk to somebody without it being to the police, just for solace, I guess. And I guess the priest helped her, but the priest can't be there in her apartment, so she went to the gun store. Thankfully, she never had to use it.
Mhm.
But we know how these people act. They don't do it; they get someone else to do it. And but I think we saw Harvey that day. Now I can see, when she was telling me that story, what I saw Harvey in that courtroom when he stood up and attacked the Markels. I can believe what she said is true.
Yeah, it's weird. You talk about this story, and I mean us collectively. It's so like fantastical. You just think of these people as, almost like characters in a story, right? But I was thinking about this last night. Like, these are actually dangerous people. Two of the family members are now going to be in prison for murder, and it's not out of the realm of possibility that someone like Harvey could act again if he's as angry as we saw him in court. So it made me worry for people. I got an email saying, a text message, I hope Judge Everett has security. I hope this person, and I'm sure everyone takes precautions. But these are real people with some sinister tendencies. Let's put it that way. Jo Potuto, to you from Robert Williams, not Robin. Georgia is an amazing prosecutor. She has a plan. I don't want to dig into the whole Wendy, is she going to get indicted yet? But with that said, Georgia's come this far. Do you think she's come this far to not go a little bit further?
Well, I'm sure she wants to. She very clearly doesn't like Wendy at all. I think it's very clear she thinks Wendy is guilty and was clearly involved in all of it. So, and I do think she has a plan, and she's the one who knows the evidence. And, we found a little more evidence this time. We hadn't heard before, at least I hadn't, about the first car being a Prius. We didn't know before that she had asked Jeff, what's the impact on small children if a parent dies? I mean, there were a few more pieces this time, and I think Georgia, I'm willing to believe that Georgia has more, and I do believe she wants to go forward with this, and I certainly hope she does.
Yeah. Tim, just as a housekeeping legal point here from Brown and Beachy, other counts. So they tried, they were working on, well, what if count one was to go away? Let's say it goes away on appeal. 30 for solicitation, 30 for conspiracy. Even if count one goes away, she's essentially serving a life sentence at this point. Correct?
Florida does not have any parole. We don't have that anymore. The only people getting parole now are the ones who were sentenced 40 years ago before it changed. She will serve 85% of the 30 years. So you figure that out. She's not going to be getting out.
It's more time than I think she has left. Let's put it that way. Okay, so this is the second Tamara Demko clip here. Let's play this. We'll get some more reaction.
Something I haven't told any other podcaster so far, on live anyway. I grew up in Coral Springs, exactly a mile away from the Adelsons' house, but I did not know them in high school as our years didn't quite align. So, a side note here, at the memorial, notably the Adelsons sat in the very back, which was July 20th. And there was ample opportunity for them to say any of the beautiful words that we heard out of Donna's mouth yesterday, any of the care and concern. In fact, I haven't heard them over the last 11 years. But at this memorial, Harvey physically got uncomfortably close to me at a couple of points. 2 days after the memorial, he friended me on Facebook, which I took as a passive-aggressive move because clearly there was an odd vibe. And then Donna called up her son, Rob Adelson. And she said to Rob, "Your friend from high school is being mean to us."
I'm going to stop her right there. Jo Potuto,
Yes.
your thoughts?
Yeah, I said I think she's amazingly perceptive. I thought the first interview that she gave when she was talked to by the police was really perceptive. I think she's got a real feel for what's happening and not just the words. And the idea that Donna would call Rob, which is strange in itself. I mean, Donna and Rob were not close. To say that Tamara doesn't like them, it's a strange thing for Donna to do also. So I think she was right. She said also that she moved out of Tallahassee because of this almost immediately after the shooting. So she clearly felt it, and I think she was probably right.
And John Singer, I mean, she talks about the fact, I mean, we're now talking about Dan Markel's murder, and then shortly thereafter, he is friending her on Facebook to the point, that it just freaked her out.
Yeah, I mean, that clearly didn't come up during the police interview because the police interview was on Sunday, July 20th, is my recollection. It was right after the memorial service, and it was the day after Danny had passed away and she had gone to the house and described that eerie scene with the different Adelsons. So this obviously happened after that. So that's the first time I've heard that. That's just bizarre behavior. She's what I recall from her police interview, very credible, very bright, very articulate witness. I think one of the prior comments that was on the screen was, could they call her as a witness? And the answer is, of course they could. And she could testify about demeanor, and she could testify about Wendy's comments to her, because Wendy would theoretically be the one on trial. So it would be an admission against interest. It wouldn't be hearsay. But, and again, don't hold me to this specifically, but I do, and maybe Joe or Tim remember, but I do remember she made one statement in the police interview that would really undercut the prosecution of Wendy. And the statement was that in the months after the divorce or the separation, Dan had been desperately trying to win Wendy back. And he was saying, I'll be a better father, I'll be a better husband, I'll be more doting, I'll be more attentive. And he even, according to Tamara, offered to move with Wendy to Miami if they could stay together as a couple. And Wendy said, no way, meaning that under no circumstances did she want to stay with Dan. But it does sort of, it could have a negative impact on their theory. I don't know if either Joe or Tim remember that, but I do remember her saying to police that Dan had offered in the months following separation to move with her and the boys to Miami if that would mean the marriage staying together. And Wendy said, no way. So I don't know how much it hampers a potential prosecution, but maybe that's why they haven't called her yet, because of that statement.
Yeah. Tim, if you want to weigh in on there was another comment though, Tim. Someone wanted to know, and this is obviously down the road here, but if there's some sort of compassionate release program in Florida, I think they're looking ahead to Donna getting old and frail. Any chance she would get out under those conditions?
Well, I saw someone ask if Trump could pardon her. No, the governor would have to pardon her. Compassionate release is really a federal thing. We now have compassionate release, part of the guidelines, and the judges can do it. It used to be you had to wait for a warden at the institution to do it, and they denied almost all of them. But now a judge can actually do it on their own with the motion. She's not going to get compassionate release after she's basically wanting to cuss out the judge, right? I thought Tamara's a very credible person. Talking to her and spending some time with her, she's very observant, she's very bright, and she's one of those that listens. Like when you talk to him, she's listening. You can tell she's listening, and when she responds, it's not calculated, but it's very intelligent, and she's a very nice person, and she picks up on things. Some people are oblivious when you talk to them. They don't see things around. She knows what's going on. She sees things. She picks up clues.
Yeah, and trust me,
she'd be a great witness.
Yeah, and she's not looking for attention. I can tell you that because Tim and I, for full disclosure, both had dinner with her at least a couple nights when we were there for the trial, and this never came up. It wasn't like she was looking.
Well, her and I talked.
Yeah,
we talked at the bar when we were having a drink. And she was telling me this, and I was kind of like floored when she was telling me. And when she told me about Harvey, I mean, it gave me chills. You haven't heard everything yet, but it gets worse. You know what Harvey did to her, and she's genuinely scared.
Yeah. Jared Ross commented, I'm not going to bring it up because I have the video here, but he says, to John Singer's point, I don't think it has a negative impact because he offered to move to South Florida if they stayed together. When she said no, he wasn't moving to Miami, not if they weren't married. So that's his take on this.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I'm just saying, I was trying to figure out why they hadn't called her, because I do remember she had a lot to offer during the police interview, and she's so credible, so articulate, so believable, and she knew them both so well, and she had spent quite a bit of time with the family. I mean, I remember her telling the police that she had spent time with Donna in Tallahassee, that she really knew sort of the inner workings of the family. So I'm just trying to spitball as to why they potentially didn't call her, and that's the only thing that I could think of was even possible.
Let me say, Georgia had said that she hadn't called Robert before because she didn't want to have to put him through that testimony. And given how really frightened Tamara is, and how really, reluctant she was to talk about any of this, I can imagine Georgia deciding that she had enough to go forward and she was not going to call a witness who felt the way Tamara did in order to move the case but the evidence was there.
By the way, one of the if you get a chance to watch the sentencing hearing again, if you just isolate on Georgia, that is a show in and of itself. Just watching Georgia's reactions to all of it, she is just sitting there like a lion hunting her prey in the Serengeti there. She is taking note of everything that is going on. By the way, if you appreciate the content, you're not going to find a better panel, not just on the Adelsons, but on anything with this panel. If you appreciate the content, please hit the like button. Please subscribe. It's very easy to do. We've got a Patreon page. And here we go. This is Tamara Demko continuing her story.
Referring to me. Rob Adelson found this very odd because he didn't know me from high school, but named me. So there was concern right away that something was off. And I had not said anything negative to them at all. Suddenly, my laptop was being forensically analyzed to make sure I wasn't a part of it. And then Stephen Webster, best guest, July 30th to 31st, around there, so week and a half after, Stephen Webster called me up and said, I don't know what you did to piss off the Adelsons, but they think you're public enemy number one. This was a very, very scary thing to have happen. And so I was so concerned, and I had two young children at the time. I moved And I didn't want to be in Tallahassee. I literally just took off. I'm like, this is a really scary situation. Nobody in Tallahassee wants to believe the Adelsons were involved at all. And I left. Poor Steven, I never even called him back because the conversation scared me so much. I ghosted him. Sorry, Steven. Apologies after all these years.
Wow.
But I will say this. In October of 2016, so a couple of years later, the South Florida Sun-Sentinel published an article noting that I was suspicious of Harvey. And I didn't even know my police interview was being watched by anyone at that point, but it published. Guess who unfriended me on Facebook that very day? Harvey. So I will say that Harvey's demeanor, personality, what came out, felt passive aggressive. I was also told by someone who'd worked in their practice that Harvey knew every detail of what happened in that practice. And he was not necessarily the passive person that people believed. So to your best guests that are listening who are saying that that's very scary right now, it was terrifying. And it took many years for anyone to think the Adelsons were involved. So I couldn't really talk to people. And it's taken until yesterday for Harvey to show some of his true colors. So that is why I'm talking to you today.
Wow. And again, kudos to Tamara for having the courage to come out. And again, she is not, I can tell you this firsthand, she's not one of these people that is looking for attention in any way. If anything, she's running from the attention. John Singer, two things are interesting. Number one, I guess the Adelsons have a public enemy list, and she was number one on that public enemy list. And number two, I have a feeling that maybe Harvey's watching this right now because he was so up on the news that he defriended her, unfriended her, whatever the terminology is.
Joel, I'm sure you're on that list.
Thanks, Tim. I need to get myself a hammer or something. I don't know how to use a gun. I need to find that out. I live in Florida now. But John Singer, two pretty scary thoughts here. Public enemy list.
Yeah, that was chilling. I mean, I think it buttresses the notion that Harvey is not the clueless, detached individual that many thought he was, and that he was intimately involved in all of this and was following the coverage and following everything very meticulously. And the Facebook stuff is sort of wild. And I'm wondering, why was she perceived as enemy number one? Were they following her after Tamara went to the Adelsons' home, or Wendy's home on Aqua Ridge on the 19th to sort of assess the situation and get the vibe that was happening there? She then, the next day, she went to the memorial service, and then she went to the police station. Did someone follow her from the memorial service and see her go into the police station proactively? Like, why would she be perceived as enemy number one? She doesn't seem like a type of person that would be telling others in Tallahassee or even in her circle her suppositions about the Adelsons' guilt. I think she even has stated before, I don't know if it was in the interview or the police interview or otherwise, that she kept those thoughts to herself. So why would she be perceived as enemy number one unless the Adelsons potentially were tracking her? Maybe they know she talked to the police. I don't know. But it's pretty chilling stuff, the Harvey Facebook social media sort of stalking, following scenario that she just articulated.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever watched Goodfellas or The Godfather, I'm telling you, when I was at that Metro Deli, which is where everyone went to eat, very, very odd vibes coming off of that man who once lived in New York. Jack's cat here. Joel, I cannot wait to hear from Carm about all this tomorrow. We're doing a show at 2 p.m. And I might have to dox my own mother right now and give out her email because she's refusing to come on. She says she doesn't want to be on too regularly, that she's not getting hair and makeup, but she's telling me that she is not coming on, that she wants to make it a more of that she is more of a rare find. So I am battling with her off camera. I'll keep you posted. I might have to record a phone conversation or something and then just dox her. I'm just it's a lot to handle, Carm. Jo Potuto, and people think it's shtick. Trust me, when we get off, we're going to argue about this, and I want to record that so you guys know it is true. I can't get over this. If she's public enemy number one, that implies that literally they've got some sort of enemies list, and that wouldn't surprise me, but it scares me a little bit. How about you?
Well, I'm not on the list, so I suppose I could feel fairly comfortable about this. No, it is chilling.
You are a
Uh,
best guest, Joe. You
yes,
are a
I guess
best
that's
guest.
true. And I've said I think they're all guilty, so
Yeah.
more than once. It is chilling. It's chilling not only that the idea that they would even have a list and think about these people are against us, and that whole idea that that's where you're focused. And I've been sitting here thinking there was evidence in the last trial that Rob was on their list, and one of the ideas they had was to get rid of him so he couldn't testify. I mean, it's you think of a family, upper middle class, living in Miami, Florida, looking normal for all intents and purposes, and then you pull up the cover, and there's all this, ugliness, beneath. It's just, it's hard to find a way to even capture in words what it's like to think about it.
Yeah. By the way, someone just said singer is so dashing, and that is such an underused word. That has to come from someone overseas. That's not an American or a Canadian, perhaps.
Older. That's an older term.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he looks. He
That's
looks.
Scott Fitzgerald writing.
Yeah, looks dashing. Be careful, Tim. I got yelled at by Joe for being an ageist, so I don't want her to yell at you as well. Now, moving on here, switching gears to this is Dr. Stacy Walton Duggar, first-time best guest. Again, I had no idea this was coming. Her ex-husband was Dan's divorce attorney, and she has been following this case very closely and has a doctorate. And Steve Cohen had been talking to her, and we said, let's bring her on, hear what she has to say. And this is what she had to say.
He had his relocation trial for Danny. He came home and he said that he won the hearing, but Donna and Harvey were going to have him killed by a hit person.
This is your now ex-husband.
Yes.
What's his name?
Thomas Duggar.
Thomas Duggar,
Yes.
who is
He did
still
family
still
law.
a divorce attorney in
He
Tallahassee?
is not.
No.
He's not. So
Correct.
he told you on that day. Did he
On
ever
that
go
day.
to? Wow, yesterday we had a crazy show where Tamara Demko told us some wild stuff about Harvey, and today hasn't even been 30 seconds, and I'm hearing this. So,
It's true.
is this a gut instinct from your husband? Or-
Well, he did have other murdered clients. So, including one when he had been practicing law for 2 months. So that was unfortunately not that unusual, but this was the first and last time he ever said there was going to be a murder and it was going to be a hit. And he was very certain about that. Although just because he was certain, he couldn't have done anything about it, because you can't go to the police with a theory. I ran into Donna and Harvey Adelson in the courthouse, and I think they're going to kill my client. You can't do that.
I mean, she makes a good point. Now, Tim Jansen, this is a year before. This is after the relocation hearing that the Adelsons lose, and they're then married, and her ex-husband now says to her, they're going to kill Dan Markel. I assume you know or knew Thomas Duggar, know Thomas Duggar. I don't know.
I do.
It's a small town. I mean,
I do know.
what are your thoughts on hearing this? Could something have been done?
Well, he had a premonition, or he had a feeling, he had a gut feeling. And he's right. If he knew more of a plan or something, he has an obligation. But he had that perception. He's been around. I believe his mother is Elaine Duggar, a very well-known divorce lawyer here in town. He did divorces for a long time. He no longer, I don't think he practices anymore. But you get that feeling. Sometimes I get the feeling of a client, and I'm like, I don't think they're going to make it to trial, or I think that guy's going to flee. And I don't have any tangible evidence. I'll ask him, and I say, if you're going to commit suicide, I'm going to Baker Act you. But you always have a couple where you feel something is not right. And the guy did flee, but you need more tangible evidence for them to do anything.
Yeah,
But
I mean, and John Singer, you know this better than I, but they always say family court is way more dangerous than criminal court. And here you have a relocation hearing. Yeah, I mean, John, hindsight is 2020, but this is now a woman who said her husband told her this 1 year before it actually happened, could or should have anything been done about it? I mean, to her point, you can't really go to police with an assumption that something could happen.
Right. No. I mean, it was interesting. I mean, that's the first time I've heard that clip. And it sounds like a lot happened this week on your show.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening tonight.
You can't miss an episode. Yes.
I think that it's interesting because in the immediate aftermath of the murder, many people had suspected, obviously, the Adelsons, as we've just talked about. But this was over a year prior. It sounds like this was right after relocation was denied. And for him to be that prescient to state, 14 or 13 months in advance that there's going to be a hit put out by this family, that's incredible. But there's nothing that he could or she could or should have done. Think about Jeff Lacaste's testimony. Mm-hmm. Jeff Lacaste testified that on July 14th, 4 days before the murder, Wendy had confessed to him in a chilling way that Charlie had looked into hiring a hitman the prior summer. And the question, Dan Rashbaum really took him to task on that on cross-exam during Charlie's trial, and said, that couldn't have happened. You would have done something about it. And Jeff said, I did consult with a friend, and it was the preterite tense, and it happened a year ago, and I was still more interested at that point in trying to salvage the relationship, so I let it go. What was Dr. Duggar or Attorney Duggar going to do? They were going to go to the police and say that it's their supposition that this family is unhinged enough there's no evidence. The police would have said, get out of the station.
Mm. Yeah. By the way, this is a first for us. We are the future because it is Friday in Guam. First time we are, to the best of my knowledge, have someone from Guam in the show. Welcome to Brenda B. We hope we have a lot more. What's the plural of people from Guam, John Singer? You should know this. Guamese, Guamesians.
Guamans.
What's your guess?
That's a Professor Potuto question.
Professor Potuto. What are multiple? What are multiple people?
I like the way he punts.
I did.
Guamans. Brenda, let us know what multiple people from Guam are. You Guamese, Guamans, Guamanese? Let us know.
I don't know why you're talking about multiple. What's one person from Guam? Guamo?
That's good. That's actually a good
Guamo.
point.
Only a male will be Guamo.
That's a good. This comment from Melissa Elliott here. When questionable people have nothing to lose, they can become dangerous. Harvey's a wolf in sheep's clothing, and I hope the police are watching him. I have no idea what's going on behind the scenes, but I agree with a lot of what you're saying there. Joe Potuto, though, this whole notion now in 2025, is there anything that could be done with this if there are additional prosecutions? Is this a person or the actual divorce attorney who could be called as a witness potentially?
It depends on, I doubt it, but it depends on how it is he formed the impression that the Adelsons were going to kill Dan Markel. I mean, if it was simply a sense that he got, there's nothing he can testify to. But if he can point to things or things they said that led to the conclusion, then it's possible that he could be called. I don't think it's very likely, but it would be possible in that case. But we don't know what it was that led to the conclusion. Maybe they'll send somebody out to talk to him to find out how it was or why it was he thought that Dan's life was in danger.
I feel a lot better after this comment from Al. Joel, Tim, and Joe could join the top 5 of Harvey's new list, and it's not a grocery list. Singer,
where am I?
Yeah.
Where am I on that?
Wow. Let me get now to the man we've all been talking about, who is none other than this guy, Harvey Adelson. We'll watch a couple of minutes of this, watch a little tiny bit of Donna, and then we'll get some closing thoughts. But this is Harvey at the sentencing hearing, taking shots at everyone, including the Markel family, which is just nauseating. Here we go.
I have been Donna Adelson's husband for over 50 years. My wife sacrificed everything so that she could pour her heart and soul into our children, our grandchildren, and our marriage. This summer was our 54th wedding anniversary, and I had to spend it without her, hand in mine. She has done nothing wrong, and yet is being punished for a crime that she did not commit. I thought we lived in a different kind of world, but I guess I was wrong. I have listened, watched, and sat in the courtroom for the entire trial, and I could not help but scream in my mind by the witnesses that were brought forward by the prosecution who told outright lies. I didn't know that you could lie in a courtroom, but apparently you can. Danny's parents contend that they have never seen their grandchild. But for years they say they've never seen her. But Wendy has shared with me pictures and videos and letters from their visits. They have suffered immensely at the loss of their son, but they also contend to tell lies to the court about our grandchildren. Donna has always been a loving and caring wife and is innocent of the charges. A biased judge and jury were influenced by years of one-sided news pieces and social media.
Doctor, Ms. Fulford, this has nothing to do with the character of the defendant or relates to sentencing.
May I just one moment, please?
Go ahead.
She's like, I'm going to cut out 75 pages of his statement. I'll be
Donna
right
did
back.
not participate in the heinous acts
He
that she
kept
was
going.
convicted of doing.
Well, back to
You're
this.
sending an innocent woman to prison. You have taken my wife and you have taken my life as well. And for what? This is not justice. It is vengeance, and it is wrong.
You have an examination for Dr. Adelson.
You've taken my wife, and for what? This is well, maybe because she murdered an FSU law professor. I mean, John, I mean, just the optics of this. Forget what just the optics alone, to call the Markels liars and then literally direct your comment right at the judge whom you're speaking to. I just have to ask, what are they thinking? And I mean Harvey, Donna, and the legal team there.
Again, as we stated at the very inception, the audience is not the judge. The audience is, the boys. But, he accused them, and sorry for reiterating this because I stated it earlier. He accused the Markels of lying. They did no such thing. They never, ever, ever said that they did not have recent access to the boys. They said that they had no access for 6 years following Wendy's decision based on Ruth's email to the prosecution saying that if Wendy's indicted, the boys need to be placed in foster care pending the Markels' arrival from Canada. Wendy used that as a lever to prevent the Markels from seeing the boys for 6 years. In 2022, right before Katie's second trial, Wendy allowed a visit because she knew that she'd be asked about access on the witness stand, and she knew how badly it looked for her in the prior Katie Sigfredo trial to say that the grandparents hadn't seen them in years. So she did it in a totally utilitarian way. And that's what the Markel said. They said 6 years, no access. They said the last several years, choreographed, manufactured, truncated, highly scripted visits with the boys under Wendy's watchful eye. He's just lying, and he's accusing them of lying. What a despicable, venal, atrocious individual is Harvey Adelson.
I second that. Tim
You're on
Jansen.
the list too now.
Yeah, now you're on the list, John. Never attack the victim during sentencing. Tim Jansen, is this attorney 101 advice to your client?
That's rule number one. Rule number two is don't forget rule number one. It's pretty simple. And number three might be don't attack the judge and say the judge was biased and he let a bunch of liars come in and with a biased and unfair jury trial.
You know what's funny, Joel? I'm sorry. I just wanted to, before I forgot the thought.
Yeah.
When I watched that the first time today, when he said he let liars come in, and I thought he was going to refer to Robert Adelson, or I thought he was going to refer to Jeff Lacasse. Obviously, Chris Corbett and any of the law enforcement folks, he wasn't going to say anything about them, even though Donna did. We can get into that. But I thought he was going to somehow state that either Katie or Robert or Jeff Lacasse was lying. In a million years, I never would have thought that he would go to the Markels and to touch on their victim impact statements. I didn't think he was going there. Again, you underestimate these people in how despicable they really are. When you think they're not going to go any lower than they've already gone, they surprise you at every turn.
100% agree. It's Guaminians. Guaminians is plural. Yeah, Guaminians. So there we go. Here's Donna. I'm not going to be able to stomach her for the entire time. Someone here saying, go John Brilliant from Matt B. And here is Donna. I'll see how long I can handle of her. Here we go.
Danny was a brilliant legal scholar. He would have been appalled at the total lack of justice that went on during my trial. He would have been embarrassed to have his name associated with any of it. There are 2 crimes here. The first was Danny being viciously murdered. The second one is taking my life, the life of an innocent woman. Convicting me should not be retribution for Danny's death. That is not justice for Dan. I've always respected the law. I've never gotten a parking ticket, but I'm going to prison for a murder I did not commit.
Brilliant.
I do intend to file an appeal so that hopefully I have the opportunity to be given a fair trial outside of Tallahassee. 11 years ago, Danny was murdered and taken from all of us who loved him.
Oh my God. You got to stop at that point.
Yeah, I mean, sickening. I'm Tim Jansen. Woe is me. She's equating herself to Dan. Dan would not want this sort of legal treatment. Just sickening.
Right. Danny, we loved him. No, you didn't. You're a murderer. You murdered him. You're convicted. She is nothing more than another murderer in the Florida State Prison. And I hope that we can end her 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah, hopefully she goes into the world of oblivion. John Singer, let me play another minute or so, and I'll get your take on this and Joe's as well.
For the past 9.5 years, the state has broadcast to the world, including Danny's parents and sister, that I hired hitmen to kill him. Never in a million years would I have wanted Danny to be harmed or killed, nor could I ever do something that would leave these 2 small boys to grow up without him. I love these boys more than life itself. This is a lifetime of loss for these children. They didn't deserve this. His family didn't deserve this. Danny didn't deserve this. And so, as I appear before you today, Your Honor, I promise you with my whole heart, I swear to you on my life, I was not involved in any way with Danny's murder. I was not.
John Singer, tough to listen to, absolutely vile, reprehensible. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, I consider myself to be a fairly empathetic person. My wife may disagree and Peaches may disagree, but I have to tell you, I felt nothing but disdain for her because either she's acting or she's deluded herself into believing she somehow wasn't involved in this. Like she's so sociopathic in these words and to state that we loved Danny. As Tim said, they hated him. Mm-hmm. They loathed him. Look, just look at her emails. They didn't shed one tear. Juxtapose what she just said with what she told Rob Adelson on May 28th of 2016, 2 days after the arrests were first made of Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera. This has nothing to do with us, Rob. And they never once seemed to care as to who did this, according to Rob. And now all of a sudden, these people took Danny away from them. Danny, our son-in-law, who we loved. I mean, it was really hard to listen to.
Yeah.
It was really a tough listen. I hope I never have to listen to it again.
Yeah, I mean, appropriating Danny as a nickname when we know that they had this derogatory gibbers nickname for him. And people are saying, do you think we forgot about the Nazi youth uniform emails, the baptism uniforms? John, I got to ask you, because I haven't asked you this yet. So at the beginning of this, again, Zellman and Fulford asked that she not be sworn in. The irony in all of this, at the end, she says she swears she didn't kill him. What do you make of that? What was going on there? I mean, I asked Tim this. Tim said he's never, ever heard of a client, of an attorney asking for their client to not be sworn in. What was happening there?
Yeah, I've never heard of it. Apparently, there was some case law. And if just on the point of, you mentioned Jeff Zellman, he wanted to be nowhere near this hearing, by the way. Yeah, he's like, Jackie, you regurgitate your closing argument from the trial, which, by the way, was better than her closing argument at the actual trial. But it was, he did a couple of citations. He looked at some cases. He gave it to the judge. That he wanted to be in a different zip code. He wanted nothing to do with this clown show that took place. You could tell. But I have never heard of that about swearing in. I mean, I think that's more up Tim's, ballywick than mine. So I guess there must be some legal reason as to why she didn't want to be sworn in. It obviously has to do with her appeal, or perhaps if she's granted a new trial, then they can't have sworn testimony to use against her. I don't know. I mean,
Tim,
they probably could have cross-examined her.
What I thought it was.
If she was under oath and she gave sworn testimony, then Georgia would have been allowed to cross her.
I just think Georgia had shown no predilection whatsoever for crossing any of these witnesses, including Harvey, because she knew what the judge was going to do. Well, there was no advantage to her in crossing anybody.
And Sarah didn't even show up. I mean, we all knew it's like knowing the ending to the movie. She knew what the ending was going to be. So let's just let the movie play.
Yeah, and by the way, someone made the point. It was kind of like good cop, bad cop. Harvey going after the Markels, the judge, the system, everything, and Donna taking an approach. Oh, we love Danny. So that seems fairly calculated as well. No surprise there, I guess. But Professor, a couple more quick questions, and we'll get final thoughts. Donna's team has 30 days to file her appeal. The judge made that clear. He even said you better get cracking on that. So what now for Donna here in terms of this appeal?
Well, that's pretty easy. They're going to go after the first-degree murder conviction, claiming there was not enough evidence on that count, and it needs to be reversed. And I went back and reread the Williams case. I don't think they're going to prevail on it, but that they have to do. They have to get rid of that first. Then they have the two other counts with 30 years on each. So they've got to find a claim on appeal that wipes out both and gets her a new trial. And from what they rehearsed, if you listen to some of the things that Donna said and then what Jackie said, what they rehearsed again was the change of venue and that the jury was biased. I give good luck on that. I don't see any way they're going to prevail on that, but that will be one of them. And I think they will probably go after maybe a couple of the evidentiary decisions during trial, but they've got to find something that means the convictions will be overturned, and you got to overturn both of them. It doesn't do any good to say there wasn't enough evidence for the conspiracy also, because you still have the solicitation. So that's what they're going to try to do. I don't think they will succeed, but that's got to be their plan. And it may be that they'll go after the judge not quote unquote showing, going on a downward departure or saying there was disparity in the sentences, because that's another one that Jackie spent a long time with. I don't think that one has much merit either, but that's where they're going to go.
That's discretionary with the judge.
Yeah, right.
And the person Lewis testified and cooperated early on and helped. I mean, that's just when she asked for 3 years, she lost all credibility at all. She might as well just, I don't know. It was just laughable. 3 years for a murder.
And that, I think, was Donna.
Yeah.
I don't even think Jackie would have done that had Donna not been pushing.
I've had clients who do that, and they want you to ask for this. And I tell them, listen, you have to have some credibility with the judge. You're sitting on top of the roof. You're asking for to go in the basement. Maybe we should go to the second floor. Maybe we'll get, but if you ask me to, and it always is like that. And they end up, the judge, I had a guy in federal court in Miami. The government wanted like 10 years. He wanted house arrest. So the federal judge goes, let me get this. They want 10 years. You want house arrest. Boy, I got a lot of leeway here. And he ended up giving him like 5 years or 6 years, but he was never going to get house. I said, you're not going to get it. Don't ask.
By the way, I'm not going to get worked up about this tonight. If you have not heard of Ellen Greenberg, please Google her. There's a Hulu doc, and we're going to dig into her case very deep next week, which is infuriating me. In my opinion, one of the bigger miscarriages of justice that I have covered. John Singer, let's get some final thoughts from you here. We've kind of gone around here. We've heard from Tamara Demko. We heard from Dr. Duggar. All new revelations. It appears that the Adelsons are a little bit more unhinged than anyone had initially thought possible. Since I always drag Tim Jansen down with this, let me pin you.
All yours.
Let me pin you down on this. Will they eventually indict Wendy and or Harvey, in your opinion?
I think Wendy, for sure. I think we've seen and heard the last of Donna Adelson, just like we've seen and heard the last of Charlie Adelson. We can wipe them from our consciousness, our consciousness, and we can forget about them and that we ever had to listen to them or we ever had to be exposed to them. And now it's Wendy. And again, people are getting concerned that there's this quote unquote lag time between Donna's conviction and Wendy's arrest. The reason why there was such expedience vis-a-vis Donna being arrested is because they were intercepting not illegally, they were listening to the jailhouse calls. Mm-hmm. And Donna made those comments about Vietnam. She made the comments about fleeing, and there was a real time crunch. They had to get, they may have gone after her that week anyway, but she was a major flight risk. So the fact that they haven't arrested Wendy yet shouldn't be concerning to people. The evidence is there. I just remembered one thing about Wendy that also Tamara said in her police interview, something I hadn't thought of in a really long time, but now that we're talking about Tamara, it sort of came back to me. She said that when Wendy wrote her book, This Is Our Story, the book was written and it was published before Wendy separated from Dan. And in the book, in the acknowledgments, it said that Wendy Adelson lives in Tallahassee with her 2 children. Mm-hmm. It mentioned nothing about Dan Markel, as if, and Tamara was saying or implying that Wendy knew at that time that she would obviously be splitting with Dan. And even though they hadn't split yet, she saw it coming and knew it was coming and had thought about it for a long time. That doesn't show guilt on Wendy's part, but it just gives you a little more window into Wendy and how she is. And I do think that Wendy is next. I do think it will be before the year is out. I think the state needed to regroup and take a breath. The work, what people see, and Tim and Joe know this, people see a trial and they see a 2-week trial and they think, okay, I could do that. No, it takes years of preparation. Hundreds of thousands of emails have to be reviewed, and text messages, and evidence, and witness outlines, and witness binders. It is a laborious task. And when you indict someone, if the defendant wants a speedy trial, you're going to court pretty quickly. Donna would have been tried in less than a year, but for the fact that we had the rash bomb issue. So when you indict, you start the clock on having to go to trial, and people need to regroup. They've got other cases. So viewers, don't be concerned about the time lag, which isn't really a lag. She's going to get indicted.
Well said. Jared Ross here. People need to realize that there's a lot of other things this prosecutor's office is working on. Just look up Hope, Florida. You can Google that, and you will see they've been very busy this week. That's what that grand jury was convening about, apparently. This is in now. This is what I was talking about earlier, and it's in the public domain. So I'm going to attribute it to this person, Lynn Paul Pierre. No, it's out there that apparently Wendy is now going by her middle name and her boyfriend/husband's last name. So she's using basically a pseudonym in the public world, which is Jill Estrada. We ran some marriage checks because we've heard that maybe there was a marriage. We have not been able to find anything. This has also been mentioned on TikTok as well. But that is what I was talking about off the top of the show, which is also, in my opinion, just low. And I mean, they took away the Markel name, they used the Adelson name, and now they're possibly pivoting to using Estrada, anything but the Markels, just to continue to antagonize a family that's been nothing but gracious. So I don't know what else to say about the Adelsons. Jo Potuto, we're talking about, possible legal closure here. If indictments come down on Harvey and Wendy, and I'm talking more specifically now, I guess, about Harvey, they don't necessarily have to be the same charges as Charlie and Donna face. So they could potentially take Harvey down with an indictment that is not a first-degree murder indictment, correct?
Yes.
And what are the chances of that, Jo Potuto?
Well, it depends on what evidence they have, and I don't know what they have. What I see is not enough, except maybe, an accessory after for him, because it seems to me there might be enough there. So I can't answer. I'm not in a position to answer what they could charge him because I just don't know what the evidence is with regard to him. I guess I would say that if I were to guess, and they do think they have a fair amount, that conspiracy would be the easiest of them, in that conspiracy requires the agreement. And I think from the prosecution standpoint, showing an agreement might be easier than what you'd have to show, in particular for first-degree murder or even solicitation. But it's a guess without knowing what evidence they have against him.
This is breaking my heart. There are a lot of comments coming in now. In some instances, apparently the boys have been made to use this last name. What's really going on? None of us know. I did get confirmation, though, that she is still apparently in the Austin, Texas area, not in Colorado. So at least there's a little bit of clarity there. And I'm trying to go through, if anyone is good with marital records, public records in the state of Texas, and you find something, please email us, survivingthesurvivor@gmail.com, survivingthesurvivor@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter, Podcast SDS, Instagram, Surviving the Survivor. Tim Jansen, I'm not going to ask you about Wendy. I'm just going to ask you for your final thoughts here today. Look, bombshell is the worst cliche in news. Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, they use it 37 times a day. But when Tamara Demko says that she was public enemy number one, and Dr. Duggar says that her ex-husband said that they were planning this murder a year out, those are bombshells.
Mm-hmm.
Your final thoughts.
They are bombshells. It's almost as riveting as the Patriots are back, right, John?
The Patriots are back. I mean,
they are back.
They are back. Drake May is the MVP.
Great
Absolutely.
coach, great quarterback, good defense.
Didn't take long, by the way. Did not take long.
Well, they got the quarterback and the coach. That's all you need.
You got a quarterback and a coach. Yeah, we'll see. I agree with John. When you trying these cases and charging these cases, you just don't have three witnesses going to grand jury and you come up with an indictment. You got to look at your evidence, what you have, how you're going to get that evidence introduced, what witness can introduce it, is it relevant, how does it get the elements of all the offenses for every charge that you're going to make, and so that it's a lot of painstaking to do. The trial is kind of like football, right? You practice, and then you get to play on Sunday, and you try this case, but all the work is done beforehand. And so,
Well, and I will add to that with Wendy, they still have the use derivative use issue. So they've got to be sure that any evidence they're planning to use is not going to be affected by her testimony on the stand.
that's a big
I don't think
impediment.
that,
It's a
and
big
then they may,
impediment. It's a big
right.
impediment that they have
You
to
know,
consider.
I thought about it. I don't know that it'll be that difficult. I think the defense will give them a hard time about it, but I think they can fairly easily segregate what they knew before from
Absolutely.
any testimony that she gives on the stand, and they're going to be able to do it with the other witnesses also. But that doesn't mean that the defense won't give them a hard time about it and take some time up.
Yeah. By the way, I was off to Fairfax, Virginia next week for the so-called au pair trial continued. I was excited to cover the OnlyFans model trial in Miami continued. So please email me, Surviving the Survivor. If there's a trial coming up soon, email me. Let me know if there's something you're interested in. And I've got some other thoughts that I will share with everybody eventually. This is the GOAT of Best Guest Panels. Big thanks to John Singer, Professor Jo Potuto, and the famed Tallahassee criminal defense attorney, R. Timothy Jansen. I'll be here at 2:00 tomorrow. Not so sure about Carm. I'm going to beg her after the show, and she's going to have some things that she'll want done in return. That's how it works in the Waldman household. Love you, America. Love you, Tallahassee. Love you, Ocala. That is where Donna's going to be spending the rest of her life. And justice for Dan Markel.
That's